my Panzergrenadiers pulling back completely, leaving only the half-track to defend itself, but it does have an accuracy veterancy improvement, meaning it can hit, or offensive veterancy improvement, meaning it can hit targets easier, and also fires quicker, much to its advantage, and it gets away somewhat unscathed. And further fighting in the north, as my Panzer IV moves around again after clearing the northern half. Another attack by the Americans in force infantry, supported by the airborne. Panzergrenadiers seeking light cover behind a small wooden cart. Not much luck. Panzer IV tank locking down for increased rate of fire, but finding the enemy closing down, and sticky bombs applied, forcing me to pull back, since further sticky bombs could potentially prove disastrous, in particular since the airborne might get recoilless rifles, but as you can see, he currently does not have the munitions for that. So that's to my advantage. Panzer IV engine burning, pulling back and surviving, having caused some substantial losses on the Americans. And now Fallschirmjäger are on the field, and I'll switch over to my side of the field view again. The Fallschirmjäger, elite infantry of the Luftwaffe, quite handy, quite capable of dealing with most infantry, in fact, even when unupgraded. And when upgraded with the FG-42 assault rifle, they are quite devastating. Fun fact though, the FG-42 wasn't really an assault rifle. It was actually meant to work as a light machine gun, but sort of like the BAR, it could also work as an assault rifle. Fallschirmjäger forcing back the airborne, along with the Panzer IV, and Americans securing the eastern half, while my half-track stands alone, untouched. Moving my combined force away from the northern half, Panzer IV trundling away with the damaged engine. Really should get that fixed, but Fallschirmjäger can't fix such things. What they can do is kill infantry really well. So, hitting a mine, and probably the only mine I think actually, but realizing that I can't really afford not being careful, I go for the fieldcraft ability, which allows my Panzergrenadiers to spot mines if they stand still and secure territory faster. And my Panzergrenadiers performing some repairs on the Panzer IV. Fallschirmjäger moving into cover, since they can ambush, which gives them a bonus when they open fire from that ambush position, which can be devastating. Some engineers moving forward, but finding themselves under fire by the Panzergrenadiers are quickly to pull back. And looks like we have a large advance, quite huge in fact. 6 teams, most of them riflemen, 1 airborne and 1 engineer with a flamethrower. A lot of force, a lot of firepower, and certainly devastating if it catches me on the wrong foot. Tragically, they're about to run directly into a Panzer IV infantry support tank. Not that it was by that time an actual main battle tank of the Wehrmacht. It was in fact by that time mostly relegated to training divisions, replacement divisions, and some divisions weren't fully equipped with panzers, and so had to make do with this older one, I believe. Launching a full assault on the northern part. The only thing actually being there is a poor Kettenkrad, which gets completely blown apart, and I believe I by this time have already lost 3 Kettenkrads. Not really a impressive record, I must admit. Fallschirmjäger opening fire on the riflemen, along with some Panzergrenadiers hiding in the house with Gewehr 43s firing on the northern half. Quite a lot of fighting here in the middle of Semois, but the riflemen finding themselves annihilated by the Fallschirmjäger, and Panzergrenadiers suffering heavy losses. Numerous wounded, one trying to cover by the stone wall, and my Panzergrenadiers in the north forced to pull back, and the Panzer IV also pulling back, since I don't want to risk it getting covered in sticky bombs. And we have an anti-tank gun pulled in, and my Fallschirmjäger bravely hold back the enemy, and another is called in and quickly curtains. And here my opponent makes a bit of a mistake and runs directly at the Fallschirmjäger out in the open and right into the FG-42 assault rifles, causing heavy casualties. Plus the Panzer IV knocking out numerous American infantry, leaving behind the anti-tank gun quite unsupported. And the crew quickly being felled by the FG-42 fire, and the airborne with their recoilless rifles unable to do much against the elite Fallschirmjäger. At the same time, in the enemy space, we have a tank depot going up for honor. So let's try and switch again and wonder what he's up to. He's already also going for the airdrop M157mm anti-tank gun, as you saw was called in, and he goes for the tank destroyer. An interesting choice for sure. It's cheaper than a Sherman tank, but unlike the Sherman, it's not really capable of dealing with infantry. But of course, since he suspects I don't actually have much to deal with armor, and by that way he can take out my Panzer IV, he probably figures it a good deal. Although of course if I recruit that anti-tank gun, it's going to be quickly knocked out.
Losing ground out there.
Personally, I prefer having an M4 Sherman out on the field before any sort of tank destroyers, so I have something that can deal with armor and infantry. But again, that's just me. So back to the Germans of the 17th SS, along with support from the 6th Fallschirmjäger Regiment. At the same time we have Luftwaffe ground forces. Not sure which of the Luftwaffe field divisions they'll be called in from. I'll have to research that a bit. But M10 tank destroyer Wolverine moving out, prowling the streets of Semois, trying to find some unfortunate tank that cannot defend itself from it. Rushes in, finding itself under fire from the Fallschirmjäger, unable, no need to worry, unless of course Panzerfaust. Of course, one thing the Fallschirmjäger have are Panzerfaust, which some people forget. But those people are not me, and finding itself quickly damaged by the Panzerfaust, and in fact the Panzer IV as well, since the M10's armor is very, very thin. And so it quickly finds itself knocked out and crashing into the Panzer IV. Sadly, the Panzer Elite cannot salvage munitions, but I do grab that anti-tank gun just in case he throws something heavier at me, using my Fallschirmjäger team. At the same time, a push from the Americans, forcing back the half-track again and securing the southern half, while I, in the meanwhile, regroup, repair, and pull forwards to try and oust the Americans from the southern small island here. Don't really want them to have any more than they already have. Finally seizing this little munitions point, which I definitely should have gone earlier since it's a +10 munitions point. A bit silly of me not to get that. Half-track moving in for an overwatch position, in case the Americans decide to counter-attack one, running right into a machine gun from the infantry half-track is certainly going to ruin their day. Panzer IV rushing across, opening fire. Infantry half-track opening fire as well, providing covering fire, forcing back the American riflemen since they don't want to suffer further fire from that. Airborne moving in with recoilless rifles, but also suffering losses. 4 Americans down so far. Panzergrenadiers and Fallschirmjägers moving in, opening fire, and the tank now with an infantry screen moves in again and opens fire. That way ensuring that it will be able to support the infantry while avoid having infantry run right up to it and open fire of dropped sticky bombs. And that is a really good thing to remember. You want some infantry to screen your armor to protect it from other infantry that might drop their anti-tank weapons of one type or the other onto it. Same with half-tracks. Generally you want infantry on the front and at the sides to create a sort of screen while the half-track provides the machine gun fire to support the infantry on the move, plus allow the infantry to reinforce. So, hope that helps. And a machine gun nest going up.
We must capture the enemy unit. is 300 points.
infantry squad knocked out, and the engineers grab the BAR, and I spot the machine gun emplacement and partly decide to try and attack it head on, but decide otherwise, since I can just as easily bypass it here and just shoot from here. Something you should remember about your machine gun emplacements: don't place them right at the front, and if you do try to place them somewhere, try to ensure at least it's not that easy to bypass them. Otherwise it's a bit of a waste of resources. The M10 still lying wrecked in the town square of Semois. Not doing a lot. Luftwaffe troops moving ahead as well, taking cover. Luftwaffe ground forces, not the strongest infantry. They weren't really either in the real war, suffered heavy losses, for example with the 16th around Caen, but they were alright, and can be for the most part be seen as the equals to foot grenadiers, so keep them at distance and keep them supported, and they'll do quite alright, and they are excellent at repairing things, probably from their time of repairing Luftwaffe aircraft. Armored car on the field providing additional fire support. Panzer IV moving in as well, opening fire as well, and finally a Fallschirmjäger team as well, catching the Americans out in the open through this bottleneck here. And a strafing run finally goes in, causing some casualties but not heavy, since for the most part I do believe my infantry was in cover, but it could have easily have gone a lot worse, and my Luftwaffe team was almost annihilated. Only 2 survivors, and the rest screaming in pain, sadly, right next to the armored car, but no help from them since the Panzer lead has no medics. Tragic. Americans regrouping for another attack, and no further use of the tank depot. Wonder how much fuel he has. Not enough to certainly pay for a Sherman tank, so not really worth it, but it's rather something you have to remember when going for the tank depot. If you can't really support it for that longer time and only ends up using it for making 1 unit, yeah, you might want to reconsider using it. Pack opening fire, but quite able to be fired upon from here, but the machine gun nest can't actually cover it, so it gets knocked out, and the machine gun nest cleared out. Final assault by the Americans, suffering heavy fire from the half-track, and Luftwaffe holding their ground bravely. Anti-tank gun, further infantry moving in as well, and the Panzer IV causing heavy casualties as well. Numerous dead Americans lie strewn across the road. A sticky bomb thrown in defiance, but no actual damage, in fact. Bounces right off. And yet GG goes out from honor, and the 1st Infantry Division has been beaten back. I hope you found this match interesting and enjoyable, of course, and for those more new to the game, I hope you learned something. And if you have any further questions, feel free to ask them in the comment section, and if you liked it, why not subscribe? This is ImperialDane, and this was episode 9 of the Propagandacast. Cheers!